Hello, Narnach here. In this highlight video about Path of Exile's Fall of Oriath expansion beta, I'll show you the boss fights of Act 6, as well as my impressions and opinions. With 3 minor gods and 2 plot bosses, this act is jam-packed with one fun fight. Before we get to that though, let's have a look at the regular mobs. Why? Because Act 6 mobs are definitely not the boring, cruel Act 1 mobs that we have gotten used to over the years. They actually use skills, they cast curses, they inflict status ailments, and they actually try to murder you, for real, which is something we could never really say about the mobs in Cruel. After you face down Kitava in Act 5, you suffer the 30% elemental and chaos resistance penalty. So in Act 6 you will be weakened unless you take the effort to gear up. Act 6 however is not going easy on you. Before you saw that they were putting down scorching ray totems. There are fire hounds everywhere that do quite some fire damage. And yeah, they're not going easy. You are lower on resist. For a scorching ray totem is just gonna pierce through even more of your resistances. So if you're not paying too much attention, this can and will kill you. Okay, that's enough regular mobs. Let's shift our attention to the first boss fight, the minor god Tukohama. He's taken up residence here in the former fetid pools. You know, the place you only go to for respec points. Necromancer's gone, instead the Kurui have taken over. They've actually built themselves a rather nice home. Too bad that their boss is kind of an angry jerk.
Let me teach you the laws of war.
Okay. You seem angry. Okay, how much is he piercing resist here? That's maybe a good one to have an eye out for. Doesn't seem to be, it's just damage. Tukohama's Rage, Frenzy. Okay. Okay, let's just leave a totem there. Butcher that. That's another one. But I have to say, I do enjoy these fights with all the small sub-objectives of taking out protective totems and things like that, rather than just the straight up fights. I thought I was outside of it, but I think I stood on the edge rather than next to the edge. Oh, slowly but surely. We are doing more damage here. Just have to make sure I don't get hit as much. Okay, you, get over here. The beam is the slowest part, so if you're just mobile, he follows. And that way, if you keep dictating where you're fighting, you're gonna do pretty well. And there we are. And there is Sin. Hello. I am Sin, thief of virtue, and it is mine to take what I will from the defeated, to make a gift of it to the victorious. Alas, your mortal frame cannot withstand the unfettered fire of deism, but turn your blood to mist and scorch your precious flesh black. So choose modestly and choose wisely, for there is much more at stake here than your little hopes and dreams. And this is how you unlock the Pantheon system. And that was Tukohama. First fight of the minor gods. It's a very nice warm-up fight in Act 6, especially if you take a break in between Act 5 and 6. And yeah, nice entry into the Pantheon system. And as we venture forth, we will be defeating more of the minor and major gods which all eventually unlock more powers for us. You can switch between the powers at will. Maybe not in combat, I haven't tried that, but at least out here in the wild, you can just switch between the different souls. So that is rather nice, and not having to go back to town means that for certain circumstances you might even just choose to switch soul powers. I'm not quite sure if that's an intended feature or whether that's something that we can just creatively abuse. But for now it looks like that is a possibility. But no, as we get into more gods and we get more powers, you will get more opportunities and more possibilities with that. So we've shifted from Tukohama's nice, almost tropical area to an area that's a little bit more doomy and gloomy, and this is the ridge that leads towards the prison, because we are making another trip to the prison, because Shavronne and the Warden are both there, and well, we do what we do best. We kill them. Shavronne of Umbra. Hello.
Not you! Upon my life and my work, I shall not suffer this humiliation again!
I don't think she likes me. Also... Ooh, he looks angry. Reassembled Brutus! That looks cool. Okay, let's get our endurance charges up. Also keep in mind, if you stand still in place, we build up physical damage mitigation, virtue of having defeated Tukohama. So stand and fight might actually be the strategy for this fight, at least for us. Okay, switcheroo. The lady that does lightning damage. Not a big fan. So far we're doing pretty decent.
Let me beautify you!
Oh! Okay, this tome looks like we can murder it. Oh. Brutus? Looking a little blue today. Okay, that was a reasonably telegraphed slam attack. Leaves a bit of a lasting impression on the terrain. But we went through rather nicely. So, another multi-stage fight. Like we're gonna see for all the bosses from here on out. So, we have Brutus and Shavronne fighting you at the same time, alternating, doing some combo tricks. In the end, Shavronne possessing Brutus for the ultimate combo. And as a result, of course, we're seeing a lot of physical and lightning damage in this fight. If you got your resists up and maybe you got some armor, then as you can see, the fight wasn't overly dangerous. But I can imagine that the more glass cannon-y characters, or characters that may not even have had capped resists by the time they finished Act 5 and are still struggling to actually recover some of the resistances, they might have some serious problems here. After we finish the fight, we end up in the Prisoner's Gate, the area where you also end up after you complete the prison in Act 1. In here we're not heading towards the beach, the ship graveyard, as we did in Act 1. That way is blocked to us. Instead, we're gonna take the long route via the Western Forest. That, of course, used to be in Act 2. But before that, we enter a nice side area in the Prisoner's Gate. That's the home of Abberath, Lord of Goats, or maybe technically the God of Goats. Either way, he's got a soul, and we want it. Okay. Valley of the Fire Drinker. We just found ourselves an Abberath. So, let's see. Defeat Abberath. Okay, he's not kidding around, he just instantly gets into battle. No chit chat, no taunting. Just action. Okay. Oi, you with your fire bubble. Abberath's elites. Okay, there's a lot of fire damage coming in here. Also some AoE and some large fire pools. So the meteor is pretty well telegraphed, has a clear marker on the floor. And even if you get hit, that max resist is like 300 or 400 damage. Ooh. The pools, on the other hand, are a bit more dangerous. Explosions have markers that appear just before they hit, and it moves from one side to the other, so that seems something you can go through. And now we know, of course, Cloven Pass. Fight some goats, get some more flask charges, and then you can go back into the fight. Also, don't get hit. How much does this hurt? Not a lot. This is more cosmetic damage than actual damage. Okay. I think so far the Tukohama fight has been the most straightforward of all of them, and that already had, well, that actually had the phase with the shielding, so that was also a multi-phased fight. Okay, make him bleed. Oh, let's get out. Maybe I should try to consciously tank some of those meteors just to see how painful they are. But there's a lot of stuff happening here. The stand and fight approach is slightly less appealing that way. Okay, now I'm standing in the middle of the puddle of fire and sustaining through it. Okay. Also, once I run out of mana, then it's a bit difficult to try and sustain. Okay. But if you're a relatively tanky character, then this fight is pretty easy. Because I'm doing some things that you definitely should not be doing on the hardcore character here, just to see if I can. And then of course, in the end, I get hit. But as I say, I'm really pushing it just to see how far I can push it. And that's always the irony, of course, in dying. When you're talking about that you're not dying. Oh, maybe also just reapply auras. But yeah, that notwithstanding, Abberath is gone. So, Abberath was a nice fight. He's got multiple attacks that individually are not truly dangerous. No, there's no real risk of one-shotting you with a single attack. But the danger in the Abberath fight is that there's just so many different things happening, and he's got multiple attacks stacking. And if you get hit by, let's say, 3 or 4 of those attacks at the same time, that is where things get dangerous. And as you saw, that is where even I died when I intentionally tried to tank as many of the attacks as possible. So from Abberath, the fiery goat, let's make a switch to something a bit more different, to one of the weirder fights in the entirety of Act 6. I'm talking of Ryslatha, the puppet mistress. It's a weird bug queen that hides in the former wetlands, or at least a side area thereof. So, from after having defeated Abberath, taking prisoners' gates, western forest, riverways, then we head north into the wetlands, and after that we end up here in a doomy, gloomy place where the local wildlife seems infested with these parasites. Little bits of chaos damage can be expected here in the form of poison. It's not a lot yet, but it is a hint of what is to come, because the Fall of Oriath expansion definitely adds more chaos damage to the game. The spawning grounds, yes, that sounds like a boss arena. Oh wow. That's a lot of green. Birth Ursa. Okay. Vicious parasites. Okay, there is some poison. There's a caustic cloud effect going on. And there is Ryslatha's nest. Ryslatha's nest. Okay, that's one. There's another one. Just spawning pits of monsters. So if you just have some AoE damage and if you got some reasonable sustain, then I think you should be fine. I'm building up some poison stacks against me, but well, either you get poison removal or you just out regen it. Okay, more things coming in. Let's see, does anything get spawned again down here? Definitely seems to be a little less straightforward. Ah, now there's a nest here. So, on the other hand, no, less straightforward. It just means there's more uncertainty and there's just more looking around, waiting for the actual boss to appear. Aha! Ryslatha, the puppet mistress. Okay, let's just get you out into the open here rather than in the doorway. Makes it a little easier to navigate. Also, that looks icky. Looks very much like chaos damage. Also, there's quite some stacks of poison damage on me. Right, you don't really feel like moving. In that case, I'll just get over to you. What's this? Infested. Parasites burst from your body and drain your flask charges. What? That's evil. Man. So, poison, flask charge draining and damage? That's quite some. Okay, make you bleed, make you poison. And lots of parasites to gain life from. And gain flask charges from. It works two ways. As you might have some kind of flask charges sapping aura, but if you just keep killing parasites, then we're gonna be fine. And Ryslatha is no more. So, yeah, that's what I meant with a weird fight. The build-up was awkward. You kind of stumble through the area rather cluelessly until you find those mouths. And after you kill 3 mouths, then the boss appears. But there's not enough signaling, there's not enough cues in the environment that point you towards those spawning mouths. So it's a weird thing, but it's definitely different from the things that came before. So in that regard, it is pretty new. I'm pretty sure that all of the chaos and poison damage here is gonna mess with quite some builds, especially builds that strongly rely on energy shield, because of course chaos goes right through it. My case, I'm a heavy sustain tank. I basically ignored the boss for the entirety of the fight, and there were not really any interesting mechanics that really made me treat it any different than I would say a regular rare mob. No, just park yourself against it and keep hitting it until it stops moving. So this is, I think, one of the few fights where I definitely have some complaints and where I think the devs could remove or make some adjustments in order to make it a bit more engaging and just make it less confusing, because this is a mess. Okay, let's skip forward a little bit, because if this fight felt like a mess, then the about an hour of gameplay that follows afterwards is also a little bit of a mess. Because here we end up in the wetlands, so we go back down to the riverways, then we take the path down to the southern forest. From there we enter Merveil's cave, where in Act 2 we exited. Now we enter. There we find Nessa turned mermaid, who tells us to deliver a flag from a ship to a beacon in order to burn it. And we're just following along there. We burn it, we move some dishes around as if we would in a labyrinth trap. And after that there's about another half hour more walking besides the beach, until finally we make our way over to the Brine King. So I think the distance from the Ryslatha fight to the Brine King fight, currently in my gameplay, it was an hour. Of course, no, this is the first time through, so I'm taking my time. And no, once you've done it a couple times, maybe you can do it in, let's say, 30 to 40 minutes if you're just rushing through. But I think the content could probably be cut in half to make it a bit more interesting, because it really felt stretched out rather than engaging the entire time. That said, the Brine King fight was definitely worth it. So, enjoy. Nessa!
So strong. So dedicated. A man like you would never disappoint a lady in need. You're a gift, don't you see? A sumptuous feast for His Majesty on his wedding day. Really, we are both so touched by your generosity.
What? I think she got eaten by the stone. I mean the crab. Okay, lots of brine spawns. Well, munch. That's a very strongly telegraphed move, intended to do a lot of damage. Let's see, what if we do the silly things and stand inside? Standing inside hurts. Standing outside here, there's so many add-ons that any Enduring Cry is just gonna get your charges filled up. That's good. Put a totem here. Let's see, make him bleed. Okay, and then we can't attack him. And whoa, the water comes in. Wow. Dang. This looks pretty. And that lightning actually hurts quite a bit. Okay. Whoa. Let's not get hit by an obviously telegraphed move. Also, if he's surrounded by water swirlies, that's probably gonna hurt as well. But note to self, keep Enduring Cry up at all times. Same thing for Fortify, and let's not get hit by the crab. Okay, and now she gets angry again. more lightning. Yep. Okay, there's some markers. So running into the water. Okay, you're drowning basically. Slow degen, but it hurts. This fight definitely encourages you to move a lot. So the bonus we got for killing Tukohama earlier, the physical damage reduction for standing still, not really taking a lot of advantage of it. Okay, and ow, ow, ow. Upside, we're sustaining through this rather well. Sogoth, the Brine King. He actually has a name. And Fair Lady Merveil. Putting down lightning markers. Well, not Fair Lady Merveil. You're not Merveil. You're wannabe Merveil. You're Nessa. Okay. Hit me, missed me, not entirely sure. Hurt. And in the final stages, they're working in tandem. You get both the lightning zappies as well as the dude hitting you, as well as the water. But we are nearly there. And the Brine King is dead. Long live the Brine King. And that concludes Act 6. Brine King's definitely a fun fight. I found there was a pretty strong parallel between the Brutus and Shavronne fight and the Warden and Nessa, as well as the obvious link again with Izaro and the Goddess. Strong, brutish, physical creature being ridden by a spellcaster of sorts, and in this case Nessa literally made Stormcalls come down while you were trying to not get smashed by the crab. Interesting touches that the Brine King himself had this big swirling water aura around him that actually hurt quite a bit. Obviously, massive props for the new water engine, because that water looked ridiculously awesome and was a fun part of the fight. And yeah, I think a lot of damage types here actually got used. Now you got the lightning coming down from the skies, you had the water, you had the physical damage. Only things that you didn't have were fire and poison, and those were elements already used in the earlier Karui fights and more recently the Ryslatha fight for the poison. So Act 6 contained bosses that deal all of the damage types, and they have a variety of arena sizes as well. So I think it's relatively well balanced, as in that it's not obviously strong or weak against melee or ranged or spellcasters. There's something that some characters are going to be better at, and there's some things that others are going to be worse at. And the bigger picture there is that it's reasonably well balanced, with of course the side notes I made about that it felt too long. The latter part of Act 6 feels like they set up too many areas and then just didn't have the time to put enough content in it. That might actually be a personal opinion as well. Other people might actually have really enjoyed the latter part of Act 6. Anyway, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.